Don't drop the ball. If you don't know who that is, if you don't know who this is, that is Dr. Mike Israetel making some comments about Mark Wahlberg's questionable training philosophies. He is hilarious. Mike Israetel is my spirit animal. I love this guy. And my microphone's on backwards. I love this guy. He is by far the best thing that I've invested any money into in 2023. He's a godsend and gives great information. Please check him out. Okay. Today's all about plugging people that I like, and it starts with Dr. Mike. This is our awesome little kettlebell ornament that these are very unique, cool little pieces. So we couldn't get one for everybody, okay? But we got a couple for some of our affiliates and some of our our long-term clients and such. But you can see our little TOA logo on there. Look how big that is compared to my hands and then how thick it is. This was so well done. Join the battle against sarcopenia. This was designed by our guy, Mr. Brad, and I will tag his page on in the link here. If anybody needs any woodwork done, he makes signs, banners, all kinds of great stuff. He's awesome. He and his wife Megan do fantastic work. Check that out. What I really want to talk to you today about is plugging some of my favorite people. I love Dr. Huberman, I love Dr. Attia, I love Lane Norton, and I love Andy Galpin. Again, all doctors of fitness in some form. Sorry, I got stuff in my eyes. My mic's I'm all disheveled. Had a majorly kick-ass workout here a little bit ago. So my schedule's out of whack a little bit. So this was just, I'm going to throw this stuff together. I want to talk about it. I did Wednesdays with Robert on Wednesday. This is Friday at the time of recording this. And I talked about zone training, zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I got some questions on it. So I want to circle back and try to do my best to kind of explain it and give you some ranging so people understand exactly what we're talking about. But I will say, if you really want to learn it as good and as super efficiently as you can from the best person or the one that kind of helped make this, is I would read Dr. Attia's book. And let me grab my copy. It's an exceptional book. Let me tell you this. I wanted a copy so bad that I ordered it. And I ordered a special one because I'm a member of his community and his online community. And we got a special offer that if you ordered early, you would get an autograph. So I got his autograph on the inside. I got the book. I have not read this actual book. I listened to him read it on audio. So not only did I buy the hard copy, I also bought the audio, which I did with Arnold Schwarzenegger's new book. Actually, my buddy John, thank you, John, bought it for me. I bought the audio. And then I just did that with Tom Segura's book, I Like to Play Alone, or I'd Rather Play Alone, I think is the name of it. I bought the book in the airport, and then I read like 3 chapters, and I went to the audio tape. Audio is so much better. When the author themselves reads their book, nothing is better. Dan John was the first one that I experienced with this. His books are fantastic. And then I listened to him read one, even better, even better. So check that book out. Again, fantastic read. It's a thick, there's a lot there. So you're going to get into it, but I would listen to it. I cover all that stuff while I'm rucking. So here's Huberman. I just want to show you why I like these people so much, because they're so like-minded and they all basically kind of interview and chat with each other, which is super entertaining. So Huberman and Galpin, and then Huberman and Peter Attia, and then Huberman and Lane Norton. And then if you go to Lane Norton, he interviewed all of them. You go to Galpin, they interviewed, and then you go to Peter and he interviewed all of them. And they basically are just this big circle of knowledge that goes through all this great information. And it's like, who wants to pick the topic today? Whose set are we on? All right, let's talk about this. And they're just sharing and creating fantastic content. One more plug for Peter Attia's The Drive, his podcast and his online drpeterattia.com. I love that website. I'm on it weekly. I get more of the research that I talk about in these videos from that website than I do anywhere else. And I can't tell you enough how much I enjoy being a member of it. We've renewed now for our 2nd year. That's on auto pay. I'm just going to keep doing that forever. So anyway, 5 minutes into this, these are the people that I feel like are producing the most actionable content that is researched and practiced, and it's super efficient. The best way you should be doing things today. That's why I want to share the information with you, is because I believe in where it's coming from. So when we talk about the zones, I'm sorry if this is it's transparent. I just couldn't find a better picture of this other than I know Peter and, where did I put that? Let me see if I have that right here. I might have it right here. Peter and Andy created like a download, I want to say, and maybe I just shoved it in my file right here. They created a download that I think had their requirements for their daily workouts and what they want to have in there, like a week layout. And then it also had the zones and the discussion on the zones. Now, of course, I'm live, and I just happen to remember, I don't have it. I don't have it here. I've got all these folders with all these articles and everything that I plug them into. I'd have to find it. But anyhow, it was worth a shot. Okay, so let's take a look at this a little bit, and let's talk about the zones, why there are certain zones we want to train in. Number one is, well, first of all, what is zone number one? Okay, it's a warm-up or a very moderate or easy exercise. This zone is 59% or less of an individual's maximum heart rate. And it says on here, this is an easy and comfortable zone to be maintained. You should not have difficulty in holding a conversation. This is typically a zone for walking or for warming up. You will burn anywhere between 1 and 3 calories a minute doing this level 1. And the threshold here is anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes. And basically intensity points for this is a level 1. And then you go to level 2, the green, weight control, fitness, feeling good. This zone is 50 to 60% of an individual's maximum heart rate. This zone is perfect for transitioning to higher levels of activity, and also is an active recovery cool down. Should still be able to maintain a conversation. 4 to 6 calories, 10 to 25 minutes. Then you get into zone 3, where you're more aerobic endurance and moving and grooving. It says this is 70% of your maximum heart rate. It's perfect for steady state endurance, and basically should be able to feel a major change in your breathing pattern from light to deeper, I think is what that says. Burning 7 to 9 calories. We're probably not talking or very broken, English at this point. 20 to 40 minutes. Then intense, zone 4, not able to talk, okay, not talkative as it says, 80% to 90% of max. Talking is typically at a minimum. Concentration on the activity is at most predominant, perfect for interval training. The effort is not sustainable, I think that says, but can be maintained for a brief period of time. 10 to 14 calories per minute, woo! And you could do the threshold there somewhere between 5 and 25 minutes. And then focused race pace. This is zone 90% or more. It's max effort. No interest in talking. All emphasis and focus is on what you're doing. Significant effort is required, and you're looking at 15 calories or more. So that kind of gives you a general breakdown of the zones. But how do you know what zone you're in? That becomes the question. Like, okay, I know what zone 2 is, but what's my zone 2, right? So then I found this guy, which has some more sarcastic breakdowns of it, but still gives you the good zones. So I did mine here on my little chart just so I could show you exactly what we're talking about. So if you want to play along, if you want to do this with me, please feel free. Go ahead and grab your cell phone or a calculator if you have one, and get a little note paper, and we will go through this together. So the first part of this is to get this zone, we're going to start with 207. Why? I don't know. Again, I'm not an expert on these zone trainings. I'm simply learning. I am learning by diving into this. So we're learning together. The best way to learn something is to teach it. No, the best way to teach something is to learn it. You know that saying. The best way to learn something is to teach it. So I'm going to teach the basics. If you want more, go look at all of these guys up here. They all know their stuff. Me, not so much on this one, but we're doing it together. We're having fun. So if I screw up, if Rob, you said this, be patient, okay? Be patient with me. We're learning together. I want to learn. What movie is that from? I would do the next part, but I'd probably make some of you upset. It's Jennifer Aniston, and she's talking to a delivery guy. about fake implants. And she's like, these, they don't feel like these. And he goes to reach out to grab, and she's like, come on. And he's like, I just want to learn. It's one of those sayings that Keegan and I do in-house all the time. Anyhow, just go with it. That's the name of the movie. Just go with it. Okay. 207 minus 0.7 times your age. So 0.7 times 43 is 30. Really, it's 30.1. So you're going to see my numbers because I'm a dork and I do all the way. But let's just say it's 30, okay? So 0.7 or 70% of 43 is 30. So 207 minus 30 is 177, okay? Or 176.9 if we're being exact. So from there, I was able to go through and do 90%, 80%, 70%, 60%, 50%, and do all my ranges to give you my zones. And based on that, I have today's workout that I did that was extremely difficult, okay? Very, very difficult. I had a hard time. But during that workout, my heart rate for zone 1, according to this calculation, should have been 88 to 104 would have been zone 1. So this is saying anytime I was less than 130, I was not in zone 2, right? I was only in zone 1. So if I'm 130 or less, this is saying by the chart I just did here, if I'm in 130, I'm in zone 3. So I don't know about that. I don't know if they're calculating these the same way. Okay, by the chart that they gave us a second ago, my zone 2 would be 105 to 122. So I'm still in zone 1 according to this chart. Zone 3 would be 123 to 139. So I'm still in zone, okay, I'm trickling into zone 2 there. 140 to 158. So we got that one pretty close. This says zone 4, but that one says zone 3. And then my zone 5 would be 159 to 176, as 176 would be my max. Okay, and I didn't get over 167. However, at 167, I was at a 9.5 out of 10. Like I had maybe a little more. I had 2 moments where when I got done today, I stopped the lift and I felt my body go, ooh, and my eyes kind of, like I had a little, you know, when if you move your head really quick back and forth and your eyes kind of go like, you get that little zony, like I'm not quite equilibriumed, like it just takes a second to bring it back. I got that, but because of exercise, not because I shook my head like a dog, right? So if I get to that, I know like I'm really pushing. And I had to take a minute where I was like, like I had these panic breaths where I had to really start to slow things down, which zone breathing has become something I've been diving into here a little bit, where instead of looking at your heart rate and allowing your not even thinking about your breathing, just having your breathing go, and you're like, oh man, heart rate 167, and you're just trying to breathe with it. You set new intentions of how intense you want your heart rate to be based on how you're breathing. It's just a way to think. You can't actually do it, efficiently, I don't think, but it's a way of showcasing, like, Keegan suggested maybe like in running, you're running, you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, breath, 2, 3, 4, breath, 2, 3, 4, right? You can get into a rhythm like that. Or swimming, it's like stroke, stroke, breath, stroke, 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 breath, stroke, right? You get into this rhythm. That's a really good technique, I'm sure. You get into this rhythm where it's every 3 or every 5 or whatever it is to like get you into a position where you're taking your breath. Like that would be rhythmic breathing that would be efficient for whatever pace you're doing right there. But if I started breathing when I'm running, right, it was breath, 2, 3, 4, breath, 2, 3. If I start going breath, 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 but my pace doesn't change, what's going to happen to my pace? What's going to happen to my breathing? Will I start to run faster? Because my breathing is dictating that I should be. My breathing is dictating that I'm sprinting, right? If I were sprinting, I'm like, that would be a much faster tempo, thus why I'm breathing so heavy. But if I'm running at 70% and I'm used to doing a breath every 4 strikes of my feet or 3 strikes of my feet or whatever it is, then that tempo is dictated that breathing. Or I could say, this is the breathing pattern I'm going to do. Let me match let me match my strides to that. And so I heard Matt Fraser talking about this from the CrossFit Games. You know, he's a 4-time champion, I think. And he was talking about how he could go from the bike where he's like, like sprinting on the bike, and then he has to go do cleans or go do a pull-up or something like that. And he would get there and he would take like 2 or 3 pace breaths where he's going, excuse me for the crazy panting, but he's like, like he's forcing his breaths to slow his heart rate rather than waiting for his heart rate to go down and breathing to match it. So it's a way to like create a new intentioned pace or control your pace by how aggressively you're breathing or by what pacing you're breathing at, if I'm making sense with that. So the reason I'm talking about all this is I'm trying to find a way where, without looking at my heart rate and trying to find, is this right or is this right, right? What is my zone 2? Is there a pace that I would set mileage-wise that always gets me into the right zone? Or is there a lifting pace I do in here that always gets me into the right zone? So granted, this workout was very intense, okay? It was very intense. The other 3 people in here doing it with me, Brad, Megan, Keegan, and me, very intense. There wasn't any talking going on. We were all working super hard, okay? Now, my maximum heart rate was at 167. I never went under 100 other than at the start of the workout for whatever it was, 15 seconds, and then poof, I averaged 143 for, how long were we doing this? There's 15, 30, 45-ish minutes, right around in there, okay? So for 45 minutes, I was averaging 143 beats a minute. My resting heart rate's 58. So let's double 58, that's what, 116? Yeah, 116, okay? So if I double my heart rate at 116, typically that's the low end of zone 1, predominantly for like you're exercising now, okay? Obviously under 130 is always zone 1, but you gotta have a cap where you're like, okay, I'm exercising now, I'm entering zone 1. What I've always heard as a general rule of thumb is double your resting heart rate, you are now exercising and you're at this very basic level of a zone 1. So double my resting heart rate, 116, to about 130 is my zone 1, from what I believe, okay? I don't know which is accurate, but I'm going with the watch because this is what I've been basing everything off of. My zone 2 is when I'm between 130 and 145-ish, 142 as it shows up there, okay? Now, when I ruck, that's usually, I'm at the high end of zone 1, low end of zone 2. Now, if we look at what the training purposes are for this, right? Like, what are we training for in a zone 2? You're burning a little more fat on this end of the scale, more carbohydrates and actually proteins on the other end. Once your carbohydrates are burned out, now you're going to work more protein-based efforts, which means your body's going to start to chew up musculature, if you will, to put it crudely, to energize you, right? So that's why people that work with these high vigorous intensities aren't typically well bulked unless they're a very unique and really well-trained athlete, like a CrossFit athlete that can do level zone or zone 5 high intensity stuff, but also keep their mass. But it's because they're not always doing zone 5. They've got a bunch of zone 1 and zone 2 lifting they do where it's do a set, rest 5 minutes, do another set, rest 5 minutes. Like they're barely in zone 1, okay? But the whole idea there is to lift and bulk and get big and strong. And then when we do the other stuff, I'll work both capacities and find like where I could be 85% amazing at all of my areas of athleticism. Not one of them is 100% and not one of them is really, really weak. I'm just pretty badass at everything. Like that's a CrossFit athlete, okay? I am not terribly good at any of these. I'm not super strong. I'm not mobile. I'm not dynamic. I'm not overly kinesthetically aware. I'm not super powerful. I'm not well endured, but I can do a little bit of all that stuff, like at a moderate level. So I would say I'm like a 65%er all the way across the board, right? Which I'm okay with. I'm all right with that. Maybe at one point I was a little better at one, but not much. If I had to pick anything, I can move like a decent amount of weight at a decent clip. Like I'm pretty good at high intensity resistance training. I'm not great at power training. I'm not great at strength training. I can do some high intensity resistance training at a pretty good clip, right? I can move a decent amount of weight. Not great, a decent amount of weight at a good pace and huff and puff my way through it. Okay. Granted, 3 hip replacements, back surgery, missing a lung, got some things going for me that make me, super attractive to the world of athletics. We want to draft that guy to be on our team because that triple hip replacement he's got there is perfect for jiu-jitsu. You can take a 10-year-old and have him punch me in the hip, I'd tap out. I'm like, not doing this, okay? I'll save that for life and death situations. Anyhow, let's refocus. I'm rambling at this point. Zone 1, we've got zone 2, we've got, some in there. The interesting part was zone 3 and 4. So we're at 143 as my average, which is right at the base of zone 3, where I felt like I was spending a lot of my time, but there were almost equal the amount of time I was in zone 4, which means I was over 154, okay, working at a 80 to 85% max heart rate for 14 minutes. And then at some point, and I think it was I was on the flywheel doing gas sprinters while they were doing sit to stands. I did a ton of those this week. I hopped on the flywheel. I'm like, I'm going to gas out on these guys. So I was doing a simulated squat jump on the flywheel, which means you go to your tiptoes and right back down, and you have the eccentric contraction coming down and the dynamic explosion coming up. So hard. So hard. Your lungs are on fire. Your ass, your quads, everything's burning like crazy, okay? So I'm finding that in a high intensity resistance training situation like that, I can hit all the zones and I can find different targets, but the scales are really small. We're talking 10 beats, okay? 10 beats in between each one of these, that's significant. That's significant for changing the zones. It's significant meaning like if I'm, 7, 8 heartbeats off of where I want, maybe I'm in a different zone and training for a different purpose than what I want. What do I want personally? I want to build and maintain as much muscle mass as I can on my body and burn body fat at the same time, which is ultimately the hardest thing to do. But that's why zone 2 is such an important area for us to train in, which is what I do on Sundays, Mondays, and Wednesdays, okay? I'm all about high zone 1, all the way through zone 2, little bit of zone 3. That's where I spend 70% of my time. And then on Fridays, we do true hurt, high intensity resistance training, and you get this. Now, watch this. This is my wife, and look what she does. She averages 152 for that entire time, 11 minutes, almost 12 minutes in zone 1. Look at her zone 2, okay, 10 minutes, almost there. Her zone 3, 4 minutes. Her zone 4, look at zone 5. So she's either resting or gassing, resting or gassing. Like this girl, where did she spend the least amount of time? In the middle, right? In zone 3, where you would say like, you're not working super hard, you're working as hard as you possibly can. Everybody else is like, hey, let me find home base. Let me find my average at zone 3. Let me push really hard every couple of sets, and then I'll recover over here during the breaks, and then I'll push really hard on a couple of sets, right? And what I mean by really hard is like the last 10 seconds. You're like, I gotta just rep the shit out of this thing, and it spikes your heart rate a little, and so like for 13 seconds, at some point in the workout, for 13 seconds, I feel like I'm doing my Lewis Black impression. For 13 seconds, I got into zone 5. That's it. My wife spent 19 minutes in zone 5. Can you believe that shit? How does her heart not just, like, I don't know how that works. Her resting heart rate is like 48 or 50. She starts to walk, it jumps to like 150. It's the craziest thing. She's had stress tests. She's seen specialists. Everybody, they just go, you got a high heart rate when you exercise. You're okay. They've tested everything. It's just how she is. This, to me, when I saw that, I'm like, can't be right. This can't be right. How did you spend 19 minutes? How did you spend the majority of that workout in zone 5? 169 or higher. Higher. I don't get it. And was she ever like me where she was like, no. She's over there like, Evan Osar would have been proud of her. Nose breathing the whole time. Like, she worked hard. I'm not saying she didn't work hard. She worked super hard. She's either got a great poker face, could do this all day, right? And I'm over there like, like twitching, flopping. All day she can do this. It boggles my mind. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. To just think about working at that capacity for 19 minutes, I would have to do hill sprints, right? And then the second I'm done, hill sprint again and hill sprint again and hill sprint again. I guess the only way I could do it is like max effort hill sprint for a minute, come back down for 45 seconds, get my heart rate as low as I can through tempo breathing to try to get back to zone 1, and then sprint again, and then zone 1, and then sprint again. Like, that would correlate, right? Like if she's working for 19 minutes and she was in zone 1 for 12 minutes, let's just call it 20 and 10 just for easy math. Half the time she was at max capacity, the other time she was at half of max capacity. So she's just really good at high and low in it. But you don't see that when you're watching her do it. She's not, working at that high of an intensity on the outside. But on the inside, maybe it's like the duck underwater, right? Like on the top, he's just like flippity flip. And underneath, his little feet are churning like, I gotta fucking jump this pond. Lewis Black again. Anyway. Like, Fridays afternoon, Rob, you need a break, bro. Okay, one last little thing I want to show you. This is Huberman's fitness toolkit. I thought this was pretty cool. Sundays, he does endurance training, usually in the form of a ruck. He talked about this the other day. Leg training on Monday, and we'll talk about the other column here in a moment. He does hot and cold, plunge, all that kind of work on Tuesdays. He does torso and neck. I think that's like core and neck, torso and neck. On Wednesday, hard cardio on Thursday. Hit max out on high intensity interval training on Friday, and then he does arms and neck again. So he's training his neck twice a week and legs and his trunk. So are we not training the rest of the body? Let's take a look at the other side. Sundays, his endurance. He's going to do an hour to 75 minutes of zone 2 cardio. So that's his rucking. Monday, he's going to do quads, hamstrings, and calves. What is he missing? What is one other area of your lower half that's super important to your hips that most people neglect because they think leg day means quads, hamstrings, and calves? I might be sitting on it. It's your glutes. Do you see glute training on there anywhere? You need a strong butt if you want to retain your hips. Take it from a guy who's had 3 hip replacements. I didn't have an ass before. Now that I have 3 hips, not all at once, one was dislocated and had to have a full revision. So now that I have 2 new hips, I've developed my butt. And you know what feels better and works better? My hips do, okay? Not just because of the replacement, but I'm prolonging the health of these replacements because I've built some glutes. So don't forget that, Huberman. I'm teaching you something. I'm sure he knows that. It's just, part of him putting this together. 20 minutes in the heat, 5 minutes in the cold. I think he said he does that a couple of times. So that would be 25 minutes, and he says he does this for an hour. So yeah, I think he goes back and forth a couple of times. Wednesday, stretches and stretch and peak for chest, back, abs, and neck. Oh, that's what he means by torso train. Okay, I got it. So stretch and peak. I don't know what peak stands for, but for like preparation, I don't know. Chest, back, abs, neck. Okay. I wonder if he had a neck injury. Why does he train his neck so much? And then Thursday, 35 minutes at 75% all out. Oh my, that sucks. Treadmill or bike or whatever he does, ski erg. I think he does air bike. He likes the air bike. High intensity interval training for near max heart rate. Very good. Saturday, he does dips, chin-ups, and other neck work. Okay. I'm guessing he had some kind of neck injury or just really, wants to preserve his neck. And, yeah, pretty good program. I see value in doing something like this for sure. I think you could train more often though. I guess it just depends on how hard he goes. If he just crushes leg day, but then you don't do legs again, but you're using it for your cardio, so you're going to get it there. You're using it on Sunday for your rucks, so you're using them there. So I'd say, yeah, you're getting enough leg work. And then what kind of work are you doing for your high intensity on Friday? I would hope that's full body stuff. And then you're using your chest and your arms and all that for arm day on Saturday, but you also did that on Wednesday. So you could say he's covering everything in his body at least twice, including his neck, at least twice during the week. So I'd say that's pretty good. I personally like to do more. Like I do 3 full body workouts, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, full body workouts, even though they have different emphasis. My Monday's my kind of like traditional strength day, Wednesday's eccentric, mobility, power. I got a couple different things, like whatever my specialty lifts are for the week are Wednesdays, and then Fridays a true hurt. And then on Saturday, I do my arm workout, or excuse me, on Sundays, I do arm workouts. And then Tuesday, Thursday, short rucks, usually heavier hilly. Saturday, lighter, further, go for a long ruck, 7 to 12, somewhere in there. My other ones are 5, always do 5, very bare minimum, I always do 5. 5 to 7, pending a good day. All right, we're gonna wrap this 30 minutes. I think it was a pretty interesting look into these training tools and the idea of creating a schedule or having something like this. I showed my training schedule a couple of weeks ago. I've actually revamped it. Maybe I'll go through that again in another video. But I like having something like this where you just kind of get like a schedule you can throw on the wall of like, oh yeah, what am I doing today? And then you can kind of track it from there. But also having a little journal that you write your workouts in, I think that's pretty damn important too. And you're able to tally and write in there your reps and your sets and your loads and take account of what you're working with right now that's creating overload, because eventually it's not going to create an overload. You're going to have to do something more. But if you don't track it, it's going to be difficult to say. You can't just come in and be like, well, this feels hard today. I mean, you can, but is it efficient? No, let's write it down. Let's find some consistency in writing these things in. And it's old fashioned. Like you can't drop it and you can't pour water on it. It's going to short circuit. You don't have to plug it in. Take your time, work on your penmanship. You've seen my penmanship, how bad it is. And then when I write in here, I'm like, I have to hand this in to somebody, right? So I really take my time and I print as nicely as I can. And that's nice for me. So anyhow, just some thoughts on this. Definitely check out Huberman, Attia, Galpin, Andy Galpin, and Lane Norton. Those 4 individuals are just pumping out great information that I think is so vital for all of us to know. And this now is probably the greatest resource book, in my opinion, for trying to work with any and all people. And they have questions about how to kind of overcome their limitations or pursue their fitness goals. We have a doctor who speaks fitness, and I fucking love it. Like, I love that we have a doctor that speaks fitness. Well, we have 4 of them actually, but it's so nice to have someone who came from, I'm an actual medical doctor in New York, in the trauma unit, in the ER, gunshot victims, whatever, coming in. That guy was treating them, said, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time dealing with people after the damage is done to them. I want to get on the pre-damage side. So I'm going to take all this education and experience, learn as much as I can about resistance training and everything else he's learned about, and then deliver it to all of us and say, here's some strategies for living a good, high quality life and not ending up in that ER, in that trauma unit, because he saw the rampant obesity epidemic in our country, all the drugs and alcohol abuse and everything else that we have, all the other disease, cardiovascular disease, lung cancer, everything else, depression, cognition, all those things, Alzheimer's, dementia, all those things, catastrophic falls and breaks and injuries and hip replacements and all those things. It's like all of that compounds. And if you go like, what is the one thing that will really help reduce the risk of all of that stuff? Let's get our bones strong. Let's get our muscles strong. Let's eat well. Let's sleep efficiently. And let's have good cognitive stimulus on a regular daily basis. If you do those 5 things every single day, you'll live to be 105 and go out with your boots on. I hope you enjoyed today. A little bonus session for this week. I'm Robert Linkul, trainingtheolderadult.com. Comments, questions, hit me up down below. If not, continue to fight your good fight against sarcopenia. Thanks for being here.